We advise viewers this story contains material concerning murder and sexual violence. Discretion is advised.
You carry baggage around from cases in ways that you don't expect sometimes, and they come back to you. You see something in another case which is similar to the past, and hard to predict which cases resonate more with you than otherwise.
Brian Dickey is among this country's top criminal prosecutors and a partner with the litigation firm Meredith Connell.
So that's quite a legacy here.
Yeah, more distinguished than me.
I must say you look like the youngest one to have a photo up there.
I'm proud to be associated with the people on that wall. I grew up in a courtroom in many ways. I left university at, 22?
Yeah.
I did my first High Court jury trial when I was 23, and I've been in the courts every year since.
Yeah.
So my heart rate doesn't change when I walk into a courtroom, in the sense that it's just where I work, it's just what I do.
Yeah.
Oh, turn the light on.
How important is it to connect with people on different levels, language-wise, and is that what makes a difference between lawyers?
Yeah, and that's what some people can't do, is they can't move, because you've got to move from judge to colleague to witness. Your witness may be from any strata of the community, depending on the case, or who saw what. Then you got to swing to a jury who similarly could be from any walk of life. So the ability to speak effectively to each of the different constituents is the key to trial or courtroom advocacy. Out shooting at the back of that car.
He has been front and centre of some of the biggest and most harrowing cases in recent times. That's professionally, but what about personally?
Hear that woo?
Yes, I can. I did.
That's you, isn't it?
No, it's definitely not me.
The EPR suggests that's not something he would wish to have done that day. He gives us evidence to you. It wasn't aiming, wasn't meaning to kill a police officer. Well, what would that person do? The person who had not meant to kill a police officer but had. What would they do? Well, they would surely show sufficient empathy. I try to keep in mind that whatever terrible events occurred which caused the death of somebody, it didn't actually happen to me. It's not my experience. Nothing bad happened to me, nothing bad happened to my family. All I did was try to help and restore something for the community, for the whānau, as a result of bringing the case and prosecuting the crime. I don't talk much about my cases at home. In fact, I've been prosecuting relatively high-profile murder cases that my wife's read about in the newspaper in the morning and expressed a view about, and I've observed that that's my case that I'm doing right now, and she's been unaware of that because I don't take my cases home. That seems to be my way of switching off, is to actually genuinely switch off, in the sense of I try to stop thinking about the case. In this case, to have killed Grace Millane, the defendant, gentleman over here at the back behind me, had to have had her under his grip, suffocating her, strangling her is probably the correct term, for a total of 5 to 10 minutes.
The Grace Millane murder case in 2018 sent shockwaves from Aotearoa to the UK. A young English tourist reported missing after going out on a date, and then her body later discovered in the Waitakere Ranges.
When you first heard about Grace's disappearance, what were you thinking then? Because you said it's not uncommon for backpackers to sort of go missing maybe for a few days, maybe they've lost signal on their phone, maybe they're on one of the islands. What were you thinking?
Are there any cases that ever linger around with you or haunt you?
Yeah, some cases you never quite shake. Grace Millane murder, the Jesse Kimston case, there was a lot of CCTV footage of her in the lead up to her death. And then there was a lot of social media and messaging evidence of her on the night and about the night of her death. And then after her death, there was a lot of evidence about what the defendant did to her, and the purchasing of the suitcase and the putting her body into a suitcase. And you can see her leave in a suitcase. Well, you know she's leaving in that suitcase. Had a very strong impression of who she was and how loved she was by her family, because she was in such regular contact with them, and the family came out for the trial, or the father and the mother did. They had no one else in New Zealand, so they were tightly connected to the police team that was involved in the prosecution of that case, and just the events surrounding that case make it very prominent. I doubt I'll shake that in a hurry. A very clear impression of her in my mind.
In 2019, Jesse Kimston stood trial for the murder.
The verdict of murder today will be welcomed by every member of the Millane family and friends of Grace. It will not reduce the pain, the suffering that we've had to endure for over the past year. Grace was taken away from us in the most brutal fashion a year ago, and our lives and family have been ripped apart. This will be with us for the rest of our lives.
There was a lot of outside noise in that case. There was a lot of whataboutisms and, what about this person who went missing, and, the topics of alcohol and Tinder and rough sex and all of that. Was that, did you find a lot of that commentary disappointing, or did you even notice that at the time? Or?
I mean, I was made aware of some ill-informed, frankly misogynistic sort of commentary in social media about the Grace Millane case, and look, that's disappointing. I don't think the majority of it was in that way. I think most of it was pretty supportive. One of the things really interesting about the Grace Millane trial was there were quite a number of young women, teenage women, who came to court each day to watch it.
True.
As if they were themselves very affected by the case, and that was interesting to see. Grace Millane didn't cause her own death. That's just not what happened. She's an entirely innocent party to what happened to her.
So with cases like Matthew Hunt and Grace Millane, they're going to be talked about for years and years and years, and whenever you see a news article or watch the news and their name gets brought up, do you get transported back to like that court case or those memories, I guess?
When I hear of a gang shooting, I immediately think of Matthew Hunt's death, definitely. And when I drive around Auckland, or I move around Auckland, I kind of see it as a sort of a map of crime scenes.
Wow.
That I'm not nostalgic about, but I don't find them triggering and they make me feel sad or anything. But when I drive through certain parts of Auckland, I think, oh, that's where so and so was killed.
Yeah.
Or I know a terrible thing happened. A rape happened there, or you do that. It's hard to avoid because places are usually so significant in terms of explaining the crimes that occurred.
Brian is passionately committed to treating defendants as humans during the trial process, no matter what their crime.
Yeah, there are real themes with defendants, and I don't have any truck with dehumanising defendants.
Yeah.
I think they are, they're not monsters, they're real people who have done bad things. Some of them have done too many bad things, and the public ought to be kept safe from them, but there's no point in dehumanising them, and I think to call someone a monster is an easy cop-out for society, because they're not. Monsters suggest they're quite different to everybody else. They're not quite different to everybody else. And mostly you can understand, because of their backgrounds, why they've ended up where they've ended up. Which isn't to say others from similar backgrounds haven't ended up there. They've had more resilience, more personal integrity. But you can still understand why they're where they are. A lot of defendants are in the position they're in because of a hand they've been dealt, which they may not have managed very well. There's always the opportunity to do the right thing and not to hurt another person. I mean, going right back, this is years ago now, I prosecuted the father of the South Auckland rapist, Joseph Thompson. I prosecuted his father, Charlie, for serious sexual offending. The South Auckland rapist did terrible things, but his background and with his father is a role model. Those sorts of cases probably triggering for someone who was to watch it, if you know what I mean, because he did offend against so many people. But I suppose the only point I'm trying to make is you can often not excuse but understand why a person is sitting in the position of a defendant in a New Zealand court case, and you can look at and you can see the circumstances which have given rise to that from the case itself.
Brian is the first Māori to serve as Crown Solicitor in Tamaki Makaurau. It's familiar territory for him, but he's still finding his place in Te Ao Māori.
Is being Māori something that's always been there for you, or something that's come later on in life?
Yeah, I am somewhat uncomfortable about my identity and being Maori. But Dad was always proud to be Maori or part Maori, but he didn't express himself as being Maori. And, you know, I'm white, I look white, and I've suffered none of the consequences that are negative of being Maori in this country that others have had. So there is an awkwardness in me saying I'm Maori, because what does that really mean? I've been to the marae when I was a little kid with an uncle. I do feel good about being a part of that, but then I feel guilt about other aspects of it. I feel part of a system that seems to have landed predominantly against Maori. And that it does make you feel guilty about it. What more could we have done, or what ought we have done? Yeah, it is a bit confusing. But it'd be good for people like me who are part Maori or Maori to sort of stand up for that. It makes the point that there's nothing about Maori that fundamentally internally causes them to present in the crime statistics. That's societal, that's systemic, that's colonisation.
But after 30 years of litigating some of the most high-profile cases in Aotearoa, Brian is stepping down this year.
I'm not giving up on things. I love what I do. I've loved every minute of what I've done. But the other thing that we've touched on, but it does take a toll on you. I mean, every day I make decisions on cases involving serious criminal activity, and often the decision is not to proceed with a case. And that's hard, because that case will never go to trial, that victim will never see justice in their mind. So it takes a toll over time. And it's just a good time for me in my career to go off and do something different, safe in the knowledge that the organisation is in good hands. It just feels it's the right time to do that now, yeah.